Today I'm going to show you how to install your accessories onto your HyperScrambler 2 Founders Edition bike. Before watching this video, watch our normal HyperScrambler 2 assembly video, then come back to this video and then we will show you how to install the accessories onto the bike. You'll be receiving 3 boxes. The first box is going to be the box with the bike in it, and also it's going to have this front fender and tools. So you're going to use this tri-wrench and the 10mm side of this open wrench. And also I'd recommend getting some scissors. In the second box, you're going to get most of your accessories. You're going to get the headlight with the fairing built in and the turn signals, the rack, the relay rack, cargo mounting plate, and a support plate. So in the second box, you're going to get a little bag that's going to have some hardware in it. Most of this hardware is for mounting whatever you're going to want to mount onto this support plate here with the quick release. But you will need out of the bag to locate the 2 M5 bolts and 2 M5 washers. They're going to be a little bit shorter bolts. Then these M6 bolts, a little bit longer, and the 2 washers that go onto that. A 4mm Allen wrench and a 5mm Allen wrench. In the third box, you're going to get your headlight with the built-in Bluetooth speaker. You're going to have 2 headlights. You have the option to mount your regular headlight or to mount the Bluetooth speaker headlight. We're going to show you how to install either one in this video. All right, before working on the bike and putting on accessories, we recommend you take the batteries off. So remove both batteries. If the battery is on, make sure you turn it off also. After assembling the bike, if you haven't already, locate the front fender, which will be mounted on top of the rear fender right here, and it's zip tied on there. So you're just going to take your scissors, cut the zip tie off, and then remove the fender. Along with the front fender, these are what you're going to need to install the front fender. You're going to need this tri tool here. That should be found in your box with the bike. It'll be in the little accessory box. Also in the little accessory box in the bag should be this longer bolt, 2 washers, and a nylon lock nut. And then also your open-ended wrench with the 10mm side, and that's what we're going to be using. All right, also you're going to notice on the fork, there's going to be 2 bolts already installed onto the fork, and we're going to need to remove those and then reinstall them when we put the fender on. So just take the 4mm side of your tri-Allen tool and loosen up the bolt and remove it. Also remove the other one. Okay, you're going to slide the front fender on like this. Try to kind of get it to make sure that the front side here of this bracket is on the front side of the fork right there. All right, you're going to take one of your washers here and you're going to slide it onto the bolt and take your long bolt and the washer and you're going to slide the bolt right into there. Now you're going to take a washer and your nut and we're going to put that onto the bolt. Take the washer and the nut, put it onto the end of the bolt and start to put it on hand tight. Now take your open-ended wrench and on the 10mm slide it onto the back of the nut right there. And with your tri-Allen tool, you're going to find the 5mm side and you're going to put it into the bolt and then start to tighten as you're holding the nut with the other wrench. Yeah. All right, you're going to take one of the bolts and washers that you removed from the fork and now we're going to reinstall it back onto the fork with onto the stay of the front fender. All right, take the bolt and washer, go through the eyelet on this front stay, and then attach it to the fork. kind of tighten it by hand as much as you can, making sure it's all in there pretty straight. You don't want it coming in at any angles. Then you're going to take your Allen tool, 4mm side, and carefully tighten it down. It might take a little while. Also, as an option, in the second box with the rack, you also have a 4mm L Allen wrench. That might even be a little easier to install these bolts. So find it a little easier than the tri tool, but either one works fine. And then just make sure it's snug. It doesn't have to be too tight, just snug. You can even move that a little bit if you need to. And then double check to make sure it's tight. Just don't want to over tighten it because you don't want to end up stripping anything inside the fork itself. All right, now we're going to attach the other side. Same thing, find the eyelet, put the bolt through the eyelet. Make sure you're going to have to hold that stayed, make sure the bolt gets into the fork right there straight. And you can take your tool, 4mm side, and make sure that that bolt is in there straight. Start tightening it down. Again, if you can take this L Allen wrench, this actually might help out a little better when you get to the close to pretty tight. Just make sure it's in there snug. All right, now you can double check the front part here again. If you want to bring it up a little bit, you can loosen it and then bring it up like that. And retighten it. Make sure it's pretty snug. You can just move it around a little bit to make sure it's straight onto the tire. And it should be, again, double check all your bolts, make sure everything's nice and tight, and now your front fender is installed. Locate the bolts and washers that came with your rear rack. You got 2 small washers, 2 small M5 bolts, 2 bigger M6 bolts, and 2 bigger washers. You also have a 4mm L Allen wrench and a 5mm L Allen wrench. You can use those, or you can actually even use the tri tool here, the tri Allen tool. That works great. Either one, whatever works for you, you can use. Locate your rear rack, and now you're going to remove this plastic piece right here, this little brace in between. You're just going to kind of spread the rack out a little bit and remove that plastic piece. All right, you're going to place the rack onto the bike. What I like to do is you're gonna take both these ends here, right here, and you're gonna spread it a little bit so we don't scratch the paint. And just kind of place it onto the bike. And then if you need to spread it a little bit more, just do that. And now we kind of have the rack into place. You'll notice these little holes right here, you wanna line them up. And then you're gonna have 2 holes down here. You're gonna line those up, and then we're gonna go ahead and install the hardware to place the rack onto the bike. For this next step, we're gonna need these 2 longer M6 bolts. So you're gonna take your bolt washer, go through the eyelet here, and then you're gonna try to line it up to the hole onto the frame. So now, take your 5mm Allen wrench, line it up, carefully making sure that it's on there straight. Start to tighten it down. And the trick here too is we're not going to tighten it too far down, because we still want a little bit of play until we get everything all lined up. So just get it on there so it's just tight enough, but not all the way tight, because we're gonna also do the other side, and we're gonna keep it kind of loose so that until we get everything, all the bolts on there, then we'll start tightening it down again. All right, you're gonna take your other M6 bolt and washer, put it through the eyelet right there, and then you're gonna line it up again to the hole in the frame and make sure that's threaded in there correctly. If it's giving you a lot of resistance, go back, try it again. We don't want to cross thread the threads that are built into the frame. And then tighten it up. Just enough so that we still have a little bit of room to move now. Now that we got both sides kind of in there, we're gonna go up to the top here and then put these 2 bolts in. You're gonna take your 2 M5 bolts and your 2 M5 washers and your 4mm Allen wrench. And we're gonna go ahead and put the washers onto the bolts. All right, you're gonna take one of your bolts and washers, your M5 bolt, and you're gonna put it into the hole here. If you need to, you might have to kind of scooch this over a little bit, you know, move it. That's why we kept the other bolts kind of loose. Make sure you line it up. Try to get it as close as you can by hand. Take the next one. Get it in there by hand the best you can. Now take your 4mm Allen. Start to tighten. Should tighten fairly easy. Shouldn't give you too much resistance. If it's giving you too much resistance, pull it back out, try again. We want to make sure that this goes in there straight. And this is also a good time if this Allen wrench is kind of in the way there. You can also use your tri-Allen, and using the 4mm side makes it a little bit easier. Tighten these bolts down. Now these you can tighten all the way down. Make sure they're bottomed out all the way down to the bottom, and then you want them pretty snug. Don't over tighten them, but definitely. Now that the 2 top bolts are tightened, we can use the Allen wrench here, the L Allen on the 5mm side, or again, we can use this tri-tool here. Sometimes that's a lot easier when you have to spin it a lot more. So we use the 5mm side. Tighten this down. Make sure it's pretty snug, and then we'll go on to the next side. Now we're tightening the other side. Take the 5mm side of the tool, tighten it down. All right, just make sure it's pretty tight and snug. Double check everything, make sure nothing's loose. And your rack is all installed. All right, just double check the rack, make sure everything's on there pretty tight. Once you're satisfied that it's tight, you're all good to go. All right, this is your universal cargo mounting plate. You'll get this with your second box with all the accessories in it. Also the relay rack quick release, it will be attached to this plate. And what you can do is you can attach basically anything you want on there, basket, maybe like one of those food carriers or something like that. But I can show you right now how you're gonna be able to mount this onto the relay rack. So you're just gonna kind of look for this little notch right here, get it pressed in there, make sure that it's in place. And when you want to remove this, you're gonna put your hand on this lever, pull back, push up, and then it releases it. This is your headlight assembly. We're going to be showing you how to install this. It's going to have the headlight, the fairing, and the 2 turn signals. You do also have the option to put into between here the Bluetooth headlight, and we'll also show you how to do that. All right, we're going to be using the tri-Allen tool, and we're going to be using the 5mm side of the tri-Allen tool to do this. We're going to be removing these 4 bolts on the clamp. All right, you're going to take the 5mm side of your tri-Allen tool, and you're going to remove these bolts and the washer too. So you're gonna have the horn here. What you're gonna do is just kind of put it to the side for the time being. You can also disconnect it to make it a little bit easier. Okay, we're gonna take the headlight assembly. You're gonna have to make sure you get all these cables are gonna have to go in between. And I like to start over here on the right side, the side without the horn, which is easier to start with this side. So you're gonna take your bolt and washer here. Put it in that hole and line it up with one of the holes, the bottom hole on the clamp here. Thread it in by hand. I'll take the next bolt and washer, put it in. Get it as tight as you can by hand. Take your 5mm side, take the 5mm side of your tri-Allen tool. We're gonna tighten it down, not too tight, just to make sure that it's secure enough. You still want it loose enough to be able to slide this up and down, which we're gonna do later. All right, you're gonna take another bolt and washer, and now this time we're on the left side, and you're gonna take the horn. Either it's gonna be hanging down if you still got it connected. Actually, you could, right now at this point, you can go ahead and connect it if you like. So you got these 2 connections that slide over. Doesn't matter which one connects to which side. There's no positive or negative. Either one works. And now you're gonna put that one in first. So you're gonna put the horn underneath, and then you're gonna put the bracket here for the light on top. Try to line up all the holes. And then you're gonna line it up with the top hole right here. And sometimes this can be a little tricky. If you have extra hands to help you, that might help out. And get it in as much as you can by hand. And take your next bolt and washer. Line up everything. Might have to kind of press from behind. Get it in there as much as you can by hand. Once you got it in there by hand, now take your tri-Allen tool, find the 5mm side, start to tighten these down. All right, now we have them tightened down a little bit, not too much, because we're gonna now want to slide this clamp up. Now that you have this on there loosely, you're gonna wanna probably bring this up, so kind of pull on these 2 clamps. I like to keep it about 3 finger widths from the top. You can put it where you like, but it tends to work that well like that, especially since you have the little fairing. Kind of want that up a little bit more. So kind of slide that around, 3 finger widths there. This one needs to come down a little bit, about 3 finger widths. And then when you have it even to your satisfaction, just check to make sure it's straight. And Now you can take your 5mm side of your Allen tool and start to tighten these clamps down. All right, once you got these pretty snug, you don't need to over tighten them. If you do over tighten these, you tend to be able to crack the clamp itself. So just make sure they're snug, but don't over tighten them. Note that you're gonna have a connection from the right turn signal and a connection from the left turn signal. They're both actually they're red tipped. They're a little bit different. One's gonna be male, one's gonna be female. And then find this yellow tipped 3-pin connection that's actually coming from the headlight itself. So you have the 3 of those out. Now you're gonna find the appropriate connections also on this cable coming up from the bike itself. So make sure that you get so you're gonna get the female red 2-pin connection, and make sure that you line it up. So there's like a little notch. Make sure you line the notches up. Press that in. Now you're gonna find the male one that's actually coming from the bike from the harness, and line that one up with the female one that's coming from the female connection that's coming from the left turn signal. And now you have this yellow one, and find your yellow connection that's coming from the headlight. Kind of make sure that it's not tangled into anything, or you want it kind of out of the way. So you might have to fiddle a little bit with it just to make sure that that connection's not in the way of anything. And then also you have these little notches, and on this one you got arrows. It's probably kind of hard to see, but just line the notches up, press it together. All right, and now your connections are all connected. You will notice on the bottom of this harness right here that there will be a 2-pin red connection. This one is actually going to be used for if you do decide to install the Bluetooth headlight. This is what we're going to use to plug that one in. If you feel these lights are a little bit loose, there's a nut on the back there. With your bike and the accessory box in the bike, there should be an open-ended wrench that's a 19 and a 17. So you can go ahead and use the 17 end, place it onto the nut there, and you can tighten that nut down with the 17. Little tight. Just get it on there best you can, and just tighten it a little bit at a time. There. And then you can go ahead and take off any of the plastic wrap also. Take the plastic wrap off. All right, in a third box, you're gonna find the Bluetooth headlight. So you have the option to put this one on. We're gonna also use your Allen tool, and we're gonna be using the 6mm side. If you already have the regular headlight connected, go ahead and disconnect it. Find the connection for it. Carefully disconnect it. Now you're gonna take the 6mm side of your Allen tool, and you're gonna find this bolt right here, holding your light on, and you're gonna remove this bolt. Now you're gonna use the 6mm side of your Allen tool, and you're gonna remove the other side. Carefully hold the headlight while you're doing this so it doesn't fall. You're gonna remove the headlight, and the fairing is gonna probably come with it, so careful. All right, find your Bluetooth headlight, take the 6mm side, remove the bolts that are installed on the side there. We're gonna reuse those. Also, there's gonna be a little rubber grommet, so don't lose that. Okay, here's the Bluetooth headlight. We're gonna install that now. The top of the headlight is gonna be where this button is, so make sure that's on the top. And then also you're gonna find the fairing. So you have a little notch right here. The fairing is gonna go the inside of this bracket. Line up, there's a hole right here. You're gonna line it up with this outside hole. Best to have a friend or somebody hold it for you right there. All right, so make sure the fairing, this hole is lining up. Have a friend. This might take a few hands to do it, but put that little grommet in between the fairing and the light, and then line this bolt up with the hole. Then get it into the threaded hole in the light, and then just turn it by hand. And there, now it's on. Okay, make sure that notch is right over the bracket right there. Okay, kind of bend the fairing like this, line up the holes. Get the bolt into the holes there. Then you're gonna take the little rubber grommet, get it in behind, get the bolt through the rubber grommet. Now line up with the hole on the light itself. Get it in there best you can by hand. Might have to force it a little bit, you know, push it. There you go. Take the 6mm side of your tri-Allen tool. Start to tighten this up. Do make sure that that little notch, this piece right here, is above the bracket. You tighten this side down. You want it kind of snug, but not too snug. You don't want to crush that little rubber piece too much. Back to the other side, use a 6mm side of your Allen tool and tighten that down. Make sure it's snug. You should be able to adjust it a little bit there. All right, you'll notice coming off of this harness with your turn signals are are connected to, there's gonna be this red tipped 2-pin connection right here, and then out of your Bluetooth headlight, you're gonna have 2 connections here. You're gonna have one with the red 2-pin connection, and then you're gonna have your yellow connection, which is kind of similar, pretty much the same as on the standard headlight. But we're gonna take the red connection, 2-pin connection, make sure that you line it up, line up the little notch. There's a little notch there, plus there are 2 little arrows, kind of hard to see, but they're there. Connect them. All right, now off of this harness, coming off of the bike here, you're gonna see the yellow 3-pin connection. You also use this on the standard headlight, the same connection. And then you're gonna have the one coming off of the Bluetooth headlight here. So you're gonna line these up. There's actually little arrows also on here. If you can't see the arrows, there's little notches also. So line up the notches and the arrows and connect it. Now that these are connected, you can kind of tuck them up into here. If you like, you can also use a little bit of zip tie or whatever you want to. You can kind of bundle them up and zip tie them together, or you can just leave them like this as long as you don't have them too loose that you don't want anything to coming down and something might accidentally grab it or whatever and disconnect it, but just push it up into here and you should be all good to go. All right, now that you have the headlight installed, whether the Bluetooth or the standard, do double check to make sure everything is tight. Once you're satisfied with that, go ahead and we're gonna put your batteries on. Turn the battery on. Install it. Go ahead and turn it on. Install it. And we'll put the key into the ignition. Turn it on. Now you can test your your turn signals. Test those. Also test the horn. And there's your bright, and then just the halo. All right, I'm gonna show you now how to pair your Bluetooth speaker to your phone. All you have to do is turn on the speaker with the blue button right here. All right, and then when you're looking for the device to pair to, look for HeadBanger. And when you hear that sound, you're paired. Thanks for watching your accessory assembly video for your Founders Edition HyperScrambler 2. And if you have any questions, contact customer support, and happy writing.